What's going on, everybody? Today we have another special episode, another special guest, Mr. Miguel. How are you doing today?
I'm very good, feeling very good. How about you?
We are doing pretty damn good. It's really exciting to have you on, man. It's been a long while since you and I have connected. Shout out to the assemblage, shout out to that space and everyone who was part of that team. Um, uh, to set the stage, well, Miguel. I mean, you could talk about a little bit about what you were doing at the assemblage and sort of how you got connected to that space. But that's where you and I connected. It was this, a lot of people have heard me talk about this place on the podcast already, so we don't need to go there. But um, we'll dig into everything that you do and all your specialties. But I think something that always I valued about you, and I think a lot of people value about you, is just your energy and your spirit and the way you can connect to people authentically and meet them where they are, and always, have a sort of Buddha's laugh about everything that is happening in life, which I think is great. And I'm sure, especially during these times, you have been a voice and a sounding board for a lot of people who might have felt contracted by the world around them. And so, we're just stoked to have you on and hear how you've been navigating, the new terrain of this world, of our country, and inner terrain, man. So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you again for having me. And yeah, we have, of course, long ago memories of that
Mm-hmm.
magical place called assemblage. For the ones that probably are just joining in and have no idea about like what is the assemblage, even if you talk about that, it was just a dream. It was a dream of a
Mm-hmm.
person and a community wanting to create a new way of coming together. Yeah, having a space, having a physical space in New York City, big buildings, co-living spaces full of different activities. There
Mm-hmm.
was people from all type of generations, all type of ages, just truly believing that there is something more than just our regular lives. And what a better place than to have like a physical structure to come together and make that dream alive.
Mm-hmm.
So we all came together, just giving our best, and we give it a try. It was a good experiment. Right now the
Mm-hmm.
assemblage is no longer open due to different circumstances. But it was like, I think it was like a womb in the middle of New
Mm-hmm.
York, in the middle of Manhattan, just like pulsing different realities. There are so many things happening in New York City. But just to have a place where people were really coming together to meditate, to breathe, to talk about the future of the world, finances, technology, health, wellness, connection, vulnerability. I mean, it was just like something different, and people
Mm-hmm.
were like really feeling that vibe. And then everybody who was part of that team, and including us, we were just like thriving also on kind of like feeling that purpose and that service that was emerging from each one of us. There was a lot of collaboration and cooperation. We talk a lot sometimes about those words, but once you really start living them, then you know how good it feels. Yeah, when you see everybody
Mm-hmm.
bringing something onto the table. And so that was a great place for that. So yeah, definitely good memories. And I believe that projects like that with energy like that are just gonna start, bubbling everywhere.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, with everything going on, it needs to, right? That's sort of it's because they that is the way. So where I'd like to begin uh, is how I why I initially hit you up was because somewhere somehow a post from you came across on the internet, about that you've been away for a few months. You were kind of in maybe dark night of the soul in some to some extent, and we're having a few experiences, one of which was you yourself had to go through whatever battles with COVID. And so if you could just share a little bit about what was going on during that time and what your experience was with this thing that has been trailing our tails, for a year now. um, please share.
Yeah, it's kind of like the story of like, don't bring me back there, but no, there's so
Mm,
much No, we all know when we go back to those memories that there is always something so rich. And the beautiful thing about when we go through those like dark nights is that there are gifts for everybody. We
Mm,
as talking about cooperation and collaboration in that kind of like cohesive collective way that we are all integrated. It happens that my shadow is your shadow, and then the gift
mm,
you discover might be the gift that you need to discover for yourself. And so the great thing about shows, programs, podcasts like this is that then you get to hear things and be like, well, that's inspiring. And well, that relates to my life.
mm,
So I'm happy to share that because, I'm pretty, I'm, I'm young. I'm 31, 32 right now, 32.
mm,
And I have been always dedicating my life through wellness, to different like yogic techniques, nutrition, biohacking.
mm,
And so I feel that I'm a person who understands my body and understands,
mm,
wellness and vitality in some sort. And for a long time, well, we all do when we do something and we spread the message about something, we start identifying with that. We start believing like, oh, people recognize me for being this like young, energetic guy, and like I'm always healthy. I'm always talking about being radiant and vital. And so
mm,
there is a sense of your ego adopting all of that type of identity. And so when truly COVID started, like the first kind of wave, I live upstate New York, so I was isolated, kind of like with my partner in a beautiful cabin in the middle of the woods, like 300 acres of just like, majestic forest. And so for us was just like, well, we are like probably in the best place that we could be. We have like fresh water, herbs that we were planting. So kind of like was that transition between winter to spring, March, April. And we tried. I really like, went deep in, took a lot of classes. I have my meditation practice. So that type of like cave lifestyle was awesome. And, I applied different things, of course, to build my immunity. I did a water fast through that spring.
mm,
I then took a lot of herbs, kind of like to feel ready, just because it was very unknown. So the only way of knowing was answering which what I know, which is just like taking good care of myself and elevating my immunity. And so I did that. And then, of course, during the summer, when things kind of like got into that kind of like, I will not say neutral wave, but at least in New York, it was like a little bit of a more permission to go outside. There was no like the mandatory lockdown. Then I went, I socialized with different people, like still respecting all the type of measurements, but in a way, I start becoming less, um, like not less aware, but I will say like less careful, or like just start to socialize more in a way, and just acknowledging that I was taking certain type of risks. And then again, the media, the news, the different things, just talking about a different virus, I will go and just check videos just to try to understand from a scientific perspective, understand
mm,
from a spiritual perspective, like what are we dealing with, and a lot of that was mostly because I wanted to be ready, one, in case that it happened to me, and two, in case that I will be able to help somebody who got it. Yeah, so I wanted to be
mm,
informed. And so time passed, and then just like the last stretch of the year, pretty much like last 2 weeks of December, getting ready for Christmas. Um, just like feeling okay, 2020, we got it, we did it, no COVID, we like good for us. And then because I'm sure a lot of people who are hearing this have also gone through the same thing of like needing to be tested for this thing or for the other one. Like I was already doing a lot of different tests, so I was already familiarized with what it means to go and get tested or whatever. Just because if you needed either to travel or to move or to go to an event, they were asking for different tests. So one day I woke up and I started having like a cough, and then the next day I woke up with a fever. And that
mm,
day was the day that that day I was supposed to pick up my dad, who was coming from Colombia, who I haven't seen in like 3 years. And so it was like
wow,
a big reunion time. But I was like, hold on, I mean, I truly have these symptoms, which is like everybody's like, aware that if you have symptoms, just get tested and like, don't go around. And so luckily I got one of these rapid tests and went there, and just like, just making all your spiritual positive affirmations of I'm gonna be okay, this is something else, just working with mind, working with energy. And well, the test came positive. And so at that moment was just like the reality of like, how do I assume having something? How do I like accept, but at the same time, how do I process this in a way? And so the first feeling, much more than just fear for myself, was fear for others, fear for other people who I could have been in contact, fear of,
Mm,
just like exposing in a way or in another one other people. Yeah. And again, it's not that I was not following any of like the protocols, and it was not going like to massive gatherings or anything like that, but I was just moving like any other human, probably seeing a couple of friends here and there, probably going to, like a friend's place for like a dinner or something like that. And so when all that started happening, was just like, okay, first thing, isolate, stay home, stay in my bedroom. I live with other people, so everybody have to be also like, quarantining with me, just because they were exposed to myself. And basically, what, again, like, just like, what do you do in those type of moments of either unknowingness? Is just really do what you trust, what you have been
mm,
doing, and what you already have
mm,
experience with.
mm,
So much more than trying to jump right away into the YouTube videos, what do I do, like that, was just like
mm,
connect to myself and really like
mm,
my body before jumping into information, because information is always good. But when we overload ourselves with information, then we just have the risk of really losing our own center, because there are so many voices and so many opinions that they were like, but what do I trust on?
Can
And so,
you
yeah.
can you break down how exactly you went into yourself, how you went to yourself for this information? Because I think that's, especially now, I think that's something very important for people to learn how to cultivate, is listening to their hearts, listening to what's right for them. And most people assume, I think, well, I don't want to generalize. I assume that most people assume that that is either airy fairy stuff, or like that concept is too far out of reach for them to understand that there's a system to it. So can you explain your system for connecting with yourself and how you trust what you hear?
Yeah. Well, I think that again, we are all made of different elements and different compositions. So I do believe that everybody is going to find their own way.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we hear more ourselves through our body. Some people hear themselves through much more through, like the emotions. And in my case, I've been doing so many meditations and introspections and things like that, that I have discovered that there is like a primal intelligence, which it doesn't lie to me. And that primal intelligence is one, my body, and two, following my emotion. And when I say following the emotion, is acknowledging what I'm feeling and then tracing it and staying present with it, because emotions are changing. So it's not something that you can right away say like, oh, what I'm feeling is the truth. But what you are feeling, really, like that kind of like feminine principle of the yin energy of making you feel something, has a guiding principle for you to explore and to
Mm,
then be connected, and and at least be humble enough to recognize and accept what you are feeling, which I feel that is kind of like a permission that you are giving to yourself to just be honest. And that
mm,
honesty that you are having with yourself then becomes your guiding principle, becomes your voice of truth. So I did really connect to emotion, because I had fear, I was afraid. And even if I had all of these like mental think of like, but I'm young, this is not going to happen, it was unknown. And when we are faced with unknown things, it's just a natural reaction. Fear is just a natural reaction, is what keep us away from danger. It's part of our body design. That's why we have our adrenal glands, and that's why we are like have that aspect of the mind that is just checking to see if there is danger or not. And so fear is just a mechanism for self-preservation. And instead of trying to reject it, I just went fully on it. And so it's not easy. And I think that the best way when we are wanting to like track or follow an emotion is just first to acknowledge, what am I fear? What am I feeling? Is it fear? Is it anger? Is it grief? Is it melancholy? Is it really joy, happiness? We just have to identify so that our brain has a way to relate to it, and then just staying present with the breath. And so to stay present might just help to just close your eyes and breathe and keep feeling the emotion. Or it can also just help to, write, journal just how you feel with the emotion. And then what I said at the beginning, it's not that I am locking myself or attaching myself to the emotion, because I understand that emotions are just energy in motion, and they are just like trying to move something. But as I stay present with fear, It's just connecting to that kind of like primitive side of our brain that doesn't understand what's going on. And there's a lot of things that we don't understand what's going on, and that's a lot of things that we don't need to understand what's going on. And I feel that that's kind of like facing really the power of unknowingness and the power of vulnerability. That is when you really are able to face it, know that you are there, but that you are not trying to control, to understand, to rationalize it, but that you're just going to be there present. And so through that fear, then I start being able to like, okay, accept. I'm afraid, and then more gifts through that fear start happening. Like then I realize, okay, I'm afraid because I love people who like I hang around. I just have deep appreciation for them, and because of that love, I don't want to hurt them. And so it emerged that gift of like, I'm a person who loves other people, and that means I'm a compassionate being, and that means I'm caring and loving. So that was a gift just to recognize in that place. The second gift was what I was sharing also about having this huge identity, which being healthy. And so it happens to a lot of us who get like into wellness and healthy and like, biohacking, that there is an attachment to always be great, to always be performing great, to always have the best levels of the best levels. And that's great. But there is also another reality of just biology itself, of the human experience itself, that is that we're vulnerable and that there is impermanence in everything that we can create. And so that attachment was much more like a spiritual gift of like, yeah, keep thriving, keep working on yourself as much as you can, but don't get too attached to feeling that once you are not there, that you're nothing. Because that was the fear. It was almost like coming to the world saying like, oh, not only I got COVID, but how am I going to react to that? Oh, I want to be one of those who like, it's really strong and don't have symptoms. Oh my God, I'm going to be like, it's just all that control and fear of really being vulnerable. And then that was another gift that emerged through that fear. And then the other fear that emerged was just like, okay, just go deep into the fear. You're afraid of dying. And I have doing a lot of different experiences in my life through meditations, through psychedelics, through different experiences in which I have been feeling really close to die. But somehow this was a real, like tangible, physical one. Thank God, not because of the symptoms, but just because of like, all the voices that is around and behind this virus on itself, on the creation. I call it the energetic spiritual design of COVID. There is fear. It has been presented, given, digested, and processed with fear. Yeah, with chaos. And so, there are some other, like if we study different viruses around history, they all have a different type of like energetic behind for how human consciousness accepted. But because in this time, in this virus, we had so much communication, we can see the numbers in China, we can see the numbers in Russia, it's so much of this overload that then there is this kind of like feeling of feeling powerless to all that information, and then we contract into that fear. So COVID had that, and the best way to accept it was like, okay, I'm going to go to the root of the fears, and probably the root of all fears is death. And so when facing death, it's also just was another great gift that is like, well, I'm one of those humans that really loves life, and I just want to stay alive. Because when you get into that state, when you really feel that something can hit you, and like you can hear this from people who have near death experiences or really a strong um, chronic like illness or anything, is that they they have to choose. How do they want to relate? Do they want to be one of those that are going to keep loving life as much, or they're ones that are going to accept that death is more close and just like accept that and live through that process, which both are part of life. But for me, it was just like, hey, no, I really like I really enjoy being alive. There is still not only so much I want to experience, but like I just love this physical experience of having a body, of being able to open the window and enjoy the sun, of sipping water. I will not say of eating at that time, because of course I lost my sense of taste and smell. So that was another part of, well, I really love eating. I'm also a chef. So it was also that kind of like wanting to taste all the flavors of life. But it was good. It has a lot of components. If our our destiny, because I call it like that, our destiny or our karma in relation to what is happening right now, allow us to stay alive. And in any moment, which was really good, was I tried to, like make my mind and think like, oh, I'm sure I'm gonna survive. For sure. Like I actually wanted to stay in that place of, this is a gift if I survive, in a way that I didn't want to just make it like, oh, this is not big deal or not. I just took the opportunity to go through it and really measure everything. Like if something attacks my body right now, my life right now, how will I defend it? But also, how will I appreciate everything that has been given to me so far? Um, but I gotta say, I have probably 2 days of really strong symptoms, mostly like a cough that was like really strong, um, and fever. And then, I have a lot of other different aspects mentally. I think that again, everybody can get hit in different ways. There are some people who have like the body aches, so it's much more like, the earth senses of like come back to your body. It's painful, and like you come back to each one of your bones. I heard from other people that, they just like they have no symptoms, but all they have is they lost the sense of taste and smell, but for months. And so it's kind of like losing your ability to taste life, to be connected with the outer world, to be connected through your senses. For me, it was the cough. Like it was strong, but then it was much more mental. There was a little bit of anxiety. There was a little bit of nervousness arising. And not only because of the COVID, it was like almost like if I just steer, the fan of all the thoughts that have been there, and then they all came like to party out. And that's what I have to deal with. And so I think that it's just interesting in, in all these different healing paths and different moments of life, to really see what is like the spiritual gift of a disease. And this is a lot of what indigenous tribes also work on. Not only just seeing like, oh, my head hurts, or my belly, or like those are all like the symptoms, the physical expressions, which are amazing to follow and to learn about yourself from a medical perspective. But then from a spiritual perspective, all of those symptoms, they also have a connection to like where you need to work, where you need to focus on. And so that was part of it. And a lot of the recovery after, even if like truly a lot of then those physical symptoms left, like the cough, I didn't have then more fever, I recovered my sense of taste and smell quite fast. It was a lot of like what remained on my mind, and we all work in different ways as humans. But for me, that was my work then, to have to then kind of like put my mind together and then be trusting again that I'm okay, and organizing those thoughts that were a little bit anxious because of that kind of like stress that I went physically and emotionally.
Miguel, you said something that really I stuck on because I think it's so important, and I'd love to hear from you because, I was obviously looking through everything that you do. Registered herbalist, like you really work with nutrition, and you're a chef and breathwork, meditation, all these. You're into biohacking, and that really stuck with me because something that comes up often when I hear with people that are just like, they hear the things we do, like Jessie and I, and they talk about and a lot of our guests, and they're like, oh, you really spend a lot of time on your wellness and like making sure, but people who are healthy are still either getting COVID or they get diseases later on in life. So what's the point? And that's what they always tell me, like, what's the point of doing all that and investing so much energy and time? And I always, everyone has their own thing, and I love to hear yours. I always tell them like, hey, if I'm able to even live past, 80, 90, I want to be able to pick up my grandkids without having, walk around with a cane or feel like crap, having my pain in my body in my old age. Cause that's what you hear, right? Like people are scared to death, but at the same time, they're like, I don't want to live too long because I'm scared to live that kind of life. And I was like, well, you don't have to if you do the right things when you're young and you take care of yourself. You can live a pretty healthy old age. But I love to hear from you about that. Like, what would you tell people if they come to you and they say, hey, I know you're into that biohacking, you're a registered herbalist, like all these things, but what's the point if we're going to die anyway? Like, what would you say with that? Because I really love that you talked about death and all that. So would love to hear
Well,
that.
That's why I really like to, well, for me, what has struck me the most in like the wellness and in biohacking and all of these different techniques is always going back to ancient wisdom and ancient healing. And what I like about that is that it's a little bit much more, let's say, holistic. And not, I'm just gonna say holistic in the way that you are treating like body, mind, spirit, but it really takes care of you as a like a whole being living a human life. So it also like takes care of, you know, what is really your true mission here. And so with the self-care, I mean, self-care is a privilege and it's a gift. And I do honestly believe and I wish that we all humans can reach the moment in which we all can truly have in our consciousness activated the self-care, DNA chip. But I think we have to be real. That requires a lot of privilege, because then self-care becomes something very different for everybody depending on the level of resources. Now, that said, self-care can be something very simple, like if you just live in the jungle in a very humble place, but you're connected to nature. Hey, you might not have like, all the different technologies and techniques, but you're already there. You're already connecting to the mother. You're already connecting to the resonance of the earth. You just go outside, you get your sun, you get your fresh food, you are in good circadian rhythm. So it might be more simple from the eyes of somebody who have all of this information. For me, what is more important is like, no matter what is your goal in life, either if your goal of life is, have longevity and like age very well, and in a way, like we always have had that race for anti-aging concepts. Humans have always, since long time ago, I mean, we see in Mesopotamia and in the Greeks, when they create kind of like the metaphor of Saturn and Kronos, it was the god of time. And then there were so many wars in between humans and time, because we have always been looking for that, like the holy grail, the philosophical stone, like how to stay young forever. So it's just something that, like, some of us go through that journey because that's like the state of consciousness and karma that we select. And there is nothing wrong about that if we don't lose the sense of what happened to me, of impermanence, and the sense at the same time of everlasting existence that is not just depending on a physical body. And I do that in the race of this wellness and in the race of like non-aging, on the eternal life, if we want to call it like that. We have seen many different metaphors, and there are people who get like lost on that because of vanity. There is people who get lost on that because of fear, actually, of death, and everything that they are doing is actually running away from dying. So there is different ways that we can just see this, and each individual is going to express it totally different. I think it's like any race that you prepare yourself, any goal that you have, either if you're gonna go into a marathon, either if you wanna, like, make, I don't know, $100,000, whatever is your goal. It's important, of course, to have that goal. It's important to us to have that goal of like, I want to be mobile and strong, and I want to have like joint mobility and really low levels of inflammation when I'm 90. That's great to have that goal. However, like as they all say in this ancient wisdom, is how much are we able to enjoy the day by day until that happens. So sometimes it's just we are a society and culture so driven by goals and objectives and conquering. We still have that mindset of conquering things and colonialism, that is difficult even in all of these self journeys to detach from that way of thinking and then not enjoying like the regular life. So we're seeing that coming back into, probably is not just going to be about being extraordinary and having, like the strength of like 5 horses in me because I've been taking this supplement, and like all of that can be the goal. But yet it's also about enjoying just like the ordinary things, the day-to-day things that bring us into that place, so that whenever we are there, then it doesn't feel like emptiness. It doesn't feel like, there are some Indian teachers that they say it's kind of like a desire is pregnant with a desire. A desire is just ready to have another desire, because just the nature of that. So it's just important how we accommodate all of these like self-care treatments and goals, and from a place that is also about full enjoyment and contemplation of the moment by moment, instead of being a race based on like, I better achieve this, because if I don't achieve this, then I'm not happy, then I'm not a person worthy, then I'm not. Yeah, because that's how sometimes the mind rationalize everything. And then, you know, sometimes like that's the only kind of like place that then I'm having to use a lot of discernment, mostly is like when the biohack or when the wellness become unwell, or when the biohacking becomes less about biology and more about hacking. So we all have all in all different paths, but it's good always just to observe, to have the discernment, because then like if you get just too obsessed with the technology and with the longevity markers and with the numbers and everything, but you're disconnected from your relationship, from your heart, from your spirit, or just from going outside and enjoying a good day with your friends, because you cannot go because you didn't bring your blue light blockers or something crazy like that, then you know, we're really missing a point of the opportunity of being humans.
Yeah, and to just speak into that a little bit, as far as not to divert too far away from the conversation, but I think one of the things you bring up that's important for people to understand is this idea of wellness and biohacking. Where we do see it go astray is when it, and it already has, when it becomes and became an industry, right? When wellness becomes an industry and then becomes something you can market, it becomes easier to use longevity as a fear-based model, right? It's like, well, you want to live longer, so invest into this IV drip because that's what's going to get you to that point. And now you're constantly putting in money for this because of longevity. And then the idea of longevity becomes, well, your level of success in health is based on your ability to purchase things that guarantee you some future. And so, you know, 100%, it does become something where, and it goes back to what you were saying about connecting with yourself, connecting with your heart, and knowing what well means to you, and finding ways to support your own version of self-care outside of whatever brands, industries are telling you is the right way to go.
Mhm.
And but something you said that I really want to kind of go deeper on is this idea of doing things, like you said, we still live in a mindset of colonialism. We still live in a mindset of conquering and taking over. And from a lot of what I've been reading and understanding and watching, it's what it seems like to me is that for us to actually continue as a species, we cannot live that way anymore. Like for us to, a big reason why we're seeing the breakdowns we are seeing across industries, across health, across a lot of relationships is this breakdown and this old sort of antiquated way of thinking.
Mhm.
So what I would like to hear your thoughts on is, how do people actually begin to shift their perspective towards a more integrated model and towards a model, like if conquer is not the model and colonialism isn't the model, what is the model from
Mm.
Miguel's perspective?
Well, yeah, that's just an answer that I want to give it. It kind of like with my nature of like, I'm an enthusiast. That's like who you are gonna hear the message coming from. There is a lot of things that we can just sit and dwell and be like, oh my God, this is just like not working. Why are we doing this? We humans, we have to wake up. We have to wake up. Oh my God, people gotta wake up. I truly think on the other side, I think that we're awake. A lot of us are awake. It's just, I think that like waking up, you know, is easy. What is really difficult is to stay awake. You know, like to wake up is like people say like, oh, people gotta wake up. Like I think that that's something easy and it's happening. I mean, you know, 2020 last year and probably this year is like a little slap for even those who were like going down to sleepy mode. Everybody's having an experience that is waking up them for something. And that's why I like the word so much of being a seeker. I consider myself a seeker. I think a lot of people are seeking something because, we were born and we know that we are, the longing to belong. We are looking for something else, not only this human experience. And we're constantly seeking experience, consciously or unconsciously, to grow financially, to grow emotionally, to grow, as relatives, to work. We are always seeking for some type of experience that show us more of what it is, either with our body, with our lives. And to be a seeker means that you need to see. And to be a seeker and a good seeker means that you need to keep your eyes open. And so, what I can see a lot of this is that there's a lot of good things already happening. And um, I do different studies either through astrology, through metaphysics. I'm just like one of those like guys who likes to study a little bit of everything, just because I believe that a little bit of everything is always, like just making your soup taste better. And as a chef, I also know that. So I work with all type of different ingredients. And what is happening right now for me, much more than we need to destroy the system, like bring it down, like it's all happening by default. There is a lot of things that we still feel in that human consciousness of we need to do, but there is a lot of also things that is like things are just happening. But there is this rational sense of like, I wanted it now, people better wake up right now, and the right now. But the right now, it's an organic process. And when you want to, when you decide to bring a baby into this world, you cannot just put the seed on the microwave and have it in 3 minutes because you just wanted it now. It's a long journey. It has to develop in the most natural and organic way. And so a lot of what is happening in a social, cultural, organic condition is that we are evolving. And evolution, chaos, life is messy. It's never just like, popcorn again to the microwave, ding, 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 and it's ready. It's messy. It's messy. It's unknown. And then, as we are saying, everybody is going to wake to their different realities. And that's also part of the beauty of being humans, is that we all have a different book. We have the personal book that nobody else is going to live, and then we have like the collective book that we all live, but in different realities. Now, the way in which we can exactly start making change through that, I, of course, not going to just hold the banner of like, oh, the only change that we do is what we do in ourselves, because I think that we can do better. I mean, definitely, it's not just about being like, if I take care of myself, then the world is great, because not, then we are just, again, just in a bubble of loop. But to decondition those types of thoughts, to decondition those type of relationships that are based either on colonialisms or in just like commodifying everything and everything, making it a product, and just like, oh, I just want to talk with you guys if there is something that I can get back, like all of that mentality can switch. But we just need to put the effort on that. But then, as I'm saying, it's easy to become aware. It's easy to wake up. The most difficult thing is to stay awake, which is the most difficult thing, is to remain in the constant practice. So I feel that part of that is just like, once you become aware of something, then your really hard commitment, your really more kind of like disciplinary commitment, is to stay present and to stay working on that. Not like, oh yeah, I work on that a little bit and now I jump into this new thing and now I jump into this thing. Is how to really create things that have a much more depth, of a study in ourselves. And then with everybody rest, sometimes I just don't like to see the people like, what is the rest doing? I'm just accept that this is what it's taking. And there is like that part of like the art of doing nothing. When they talk a lot like in Taoism, it's not just becoming this passive being that is not doing anything in the world, but it's having that kind of like backstage consciousness that is also just observing how the movie develops. And meanwhile that you can also like eat your spiritual popcorn and just like have a smile or a scary face. But there is something beautiful about this human experience that I really see it as a gift, and is that we don't need to control anything. Control is an illusion. And so when you are trying to control things and trying to, like, oh, but this ship needs to move there or there, like, no, you don't even control yourself. You have command over yourself. but not really control. And so I just like also to take that. For me, it's a little bit of like that humble, it's like a humble seat. Even if I think that we all could live perfectly in harmony and that it could be no borders, like I have those dreams, but like the humbleness is still to accept the times in which we are living. And again, try to see the beauty for what it is, because that is also like another way of really staying awake, is just to try to see the beauty, because beauty is there everywhere. And so those are kind of like the practice that I do. And then on that enthusiasm, I just feel that we're doing great. I mean, again, it's chaotic, it's messy, there is life, there is death, there is fear, there is love, but we're still here, it's still happening. And in a more like macro universal multiverse vision, if we go very quantum here or we go very far out, this whole thing cycle of creation is inventing and reinventing itself all over and all over again. It has way less attachments than what we have to this experience. So there is that harmonic plan that is happening. I do believe in that grace of universe. There is grace. That's why this is all be able to happen, because there is grace and order. And so that's how I like to see it. That's how I like to enjoy it. And with that way, doesn't mean that I become like a passive, comfortable, privileged person, just like, not doing my part, because I am. And a good thing that allows me to stay doing that works is also staying in service and staying in charity, in that mentality, you know. Mm, That's what works for me until
And
2021.
and are most of those practices your breath work and meditations that you do as well, that help you stay awake, as you're putting it, that can possibly help other people?
Yeah, definitely for my constitution. And that's why I like, there is something that I really learn and enjoy about like biohacking is just
Mhm.
the study of like biomolecular individuality. It's just like I never had that kind of like whole reference on also kind of like a more esoteric perspective, but there's solid truly awesome, and is that every single one of us is so special and so different,
Mm.
not only on a physical level but on an energetic level. So for me, yes, for me, I have found immense, immense like benefits of dynamic meditations at breathwork. And when I say dynamic meditations, is because my meditations either have either a hand movement, or I'm like chanting something, or I have a pattern of breath. It's not just like the contemplative kind of like Zen meditation, eyes closed, or more like silent. I like, again, it's not a comparing to saying which one is more powerful or not. We all have, again, different moments, different life cycles, which is important to observe. And so that right now is like what it's working the most for me. And so meditations, what I do like is when I find a meditation that I need to work with, I try to keep that meditation consistently, at least for 40 days. So it's not like, oh, today I'm gonna be doing silent meditation, and tomorrow I'm gonna doing breath work, and tomorrow I'm gonna do Osho meditation, and tomorrow I'm gonna just walk around. I think that works for people who are seeking, but for me, it really works 40 days. Is something that, like in technology of either Kundalini yoga, but other type of like mystic scriptures, they always go for 40 days,
Wow.
just because 40 days, it's when you really see change of a pattern. And there has been now studies of how you can, even after 40 days and 120 days, you not only destroy a habit, but you also incept a new habit, because just kind of like that's the organic time of our brain that is also connected to the organic time of like cell rejuvenation. Is also connected, like there is a lot of those type of systems that, if we, it's just like you go to the gym, you do chest one day, you know that the next day you're not going to be like all puff and ready. Like it takes an organic cycle to develop that mass. Exactly happens with the brain. And so I've been doing that. And breath is not that much something that I keep the same breathing exercises, because breath is like energy, or like where we were talking about emotions. And so energy is always, it never gets destroyed, it's always changing. And so that's how we see it, like in a yogic perspective. Is prana, is life force. So life force has a great potential. Sometimes you need life force to, like, go and run and feel active and feel young and feel solar and feel, like that masculine doer energy. But sometimes you need the yin, you need the feminine, you need to go to bed, you really want great restoration. So all of that is prana. All of that is life force. But breath, what allows you is to really tap into the zone, the area, the energy that you need to use in order to achieve something. It's kind of like when you decide, should I walk or should I ride my car? You're just using something to get into that objective. So with breath work, I do it in that way. So if it is a morning, for example, today, and I'm going to be chatting with you guys, I want to be alert. I want to be present. So I'm going to do a lot of breathing that I know that is going to work with the frontal lobe of my brain. But then I don't want to be too energetic, because this is not like a sales show in which I have to be screaming and saying, come on, guys, get it. So I'm gonna do a little bit of like alternate nostril just to balance and then feel like equanimity in the way that I'm talking. And so that's just the thing. It's just what I call them is called human technologies. It's kind of like you get an app for like your food, you get an app for your like whatever. So we need to have those apps. Like, okay, I need to put my app to sleep good, or I need to put my app to, feel confident, or I need to put my app to feel positive. And so you start creating all of these human technologies, and like every app, the more you use them, the easier it is for you to become a master on them. And so that's how I work with breath, depending on the day of the time, depending on the outcome that I want to receive, depending on what I'm working. And mostly I use breath work or pranayams to enhance then the meditation practice. And then for the meditation, I just choose different ones, again, depending on what I'm working or what I want to fortify or where I'm bringing my attention. Just because the mind, it's so creative in itself, and and we know a lot now, these new concepts of like neurogenesis, and the flexibility of the mind to create new patterns. And when we have a repetitive meditation, it's kind of like we create a container in which we can observe more of those changes. But if every day we are kind of like baking a new recipe, then we're not able to really see what are the subtle things that are happening there. So that is what is working, of course, for me. And then any practice that is stay in my body. With that, I used to be more attached, like, oh, I just do this or that. Now I try to do a little bit of everything. I like to, of course, flexibility, just because flexibility, anything that creates more range of motion in you, then creates better circulation. And with better circulation, then you're going to have way much more benefits with the prana and like with the oxygen and with the meditation. If you're just bulk and stiff and inflamed, it's going to be way harder to tap into those levels. But then I also now do strength a lot, just to keep good mass density, because before sometimes I was like just in more subtle energetic practices. And then you also need to be out there in the world, and you need to be strong, you need to have presence, you need to be dense, you need to be solid, you need to have also that other kind of like descending energy that pull down into the earth, not just like the levity and the oh my god and the fairy and the chakra and the all of that. So it's the good composition in between the two of them. It's the good match in between heaven and earth. And then also just things that keep me expanding my like my performance, which then means like hard high interval training, things like that you feel like that was intense, but like you recover that sense of like, oh, I'm able to handle more, because that's not only what you're giving to your heart, but you're also giving to your psychology. And I do also that with breath sometimes, just holding arms up even when your arms are shaking, and you're like, it's being like 30 minutes with the arms up, but that's kind of like toning your nerves too. That's kind of like telling to your psychology, yes, you can. And so that you develop better endurance and better will. So that's a little bit of the combinations of how I'm doing. And again, all under the observation of one, curiosity, because if there is something that is making me curious about, and I'm like, oh, I haven't tried that, and something resonates, like it's not that I'm going to deny it and be like, oh, I don't do that because right now I'm doing my practice or whatever. Like I always have a space, to integrate more things, because I think that that's valid. Life brings you that. And yeah, and then the other one is also just, to let it be organic, let it be organic. I do have the discipline, but I don't try to create a rigid discipline, mostly based on once I do this, then this is going to happen. Like I try not to stay in that mindset, because it's very tricky then. It's like you're acting in that kind of like regard system of like, if you behave well, then I'm going to give you a cookie and then you're going to be finally happy. I try just to say like, no, this is my day-to-day life. Cookies happening right now. It's delicious. So like, it's more about that.
Yeah, I love that, man. Um, That's a great practice, dude. That's a great stuff to have within your day, and so much of I could just resonate with the fact that, like, the experience of finding what works for you. It's, as someone who also would call himself a seeker and someone who's tried all sorts of practices. We just had an episode about this. Ruben and I just had an episode about the immense amount of investment in ourselves and the time we spend either with courses, coaches, books, techniques, and this exploration of going inside. And I think what you found is similar to what I found, which is it's beautiful when you can get to a place where you've played by the rules of self-exploration for so long that you can bend them, that you get to a place where you really have this symbiotic understanding of your body and what you need at specific times, depending on specific moments, and you're able to be malleable in your practices. That becomes a really beautiful space to be in, you know?
Yeah, I truly start learning that concept through Taoism and even the
Mm,
I Ching. They're just great observers. They're seekers, but they're not just seeking what's next. They're also just
mm,
observing what is and what is
mm,
here. And that's kind of like the art of contemplation and the art of doing nothing. It's not that you're not doing nothing, but you're just, absorbed by
mm,
everything that is. And so what I like about the Tao is that they didn't have that much that good or bad, right or wrong. It's all yin and yang. It's all just
mm,
eternal energy. And there is yin in the yang and yang in the yin. For people who don't know about this concept, it's just that symbol that you see black and white. But it's basically just talking that all polarities are working with each other and that the two polarities are incepted in each other. And that's
mm,
what creates totality. And so, what they learn to do is to just observe and know thyself. And in that deep study, is just understanding that everything is changing. The only constant that we have, is change, which sounds cliche, but sometimes we don't apply it on everything that we do. And then it's just knowing that everything in our body has cycles, movements, up and down, directions. That's why we are living beings and we live out of motion, and motion is change again. So, in Taoism, even just in Chinese medicine, you have a time for everything. Your heart time is at midday, that's the peak of fire. Then, at 9 a.m., you have your stomach and your spleen time. And so you can kind of like, it's like your circadian rhythm, but explain on the different organs that get activated. But it's not just like a physiological aspect of like your heart is pulsing at midday, like heart. It's just saying where the chi, where the energy, where the prana flows at that moment of the day. Now, we expand that just beyond the day, then we enter into understanding life cycles. So when we are young, when we are like little babies, we are more fragile. We're still kind of like the water. We're still like whatever they put on us dissolve. Then we become younger, and then we become wood, and we want to like let the world know. And then we enter into our fire stage, and we just want to make sure everybody knows, and like like burn everything. And so there are different, let's say, elements. It's just like a metaphor of how they explain it. And then you get into your mid 30s, 40s, and becomes like the metal element. You just need to be precise. You cannot just be wasting your time. You have responsibilities. Whatever you do affects the other one. Yeah, because it's metal,
mm,
can cut somebody. And then you return back to the water, to the essence, to the elder that is just looking and receiving and is like in eternal consecration with everything that exists. So with that said, in that observation, we can lever it into a like micro level of like, okay, what's happening with me today? Oh, today I have a lot of like energy. I really feel good. I don't need to put more stimulants in my body. Probably I don't need to put these macro currents because I'm already energized. Even if the treatment says that I should do it every day, I'm already feeling that I'm good. So I'm not going to expose myself to that. Thank God I have more tools, more diverse of knowledge. I actually, because today it's a very active day, but I don't want to be frenetic, I'm going to do some grounding exercises, which allows me to keep this energy, but be grounded. So again, that's like the energy of truly mastery. It's not just the seeking, it's not just the contemplating, but then is the action in place of the different things that you're already mastering. And the funny thing of that mastery is that then it comes with that, with the laugh, with the trial, with the error, with the knowingness of like, chop wood, carry water, just like, oh, I just did that yesterday and I'm gonna do it again. Like just not that rigid master, and not also just the master of the ego that is like, I have the truth and I am the truth, so people should come just for my truth. So you have a different kind of like organic way. Again, it's just of being, perceiving, learning, that's what I feel, that it's like that deep study that no product, no guru, no teacher, no biohacker, no celebrity can give to yourself. And then it comes one of the greatest like shadows that we have in humanity, that is laziness, because we just want things to be digested for ourselves. We just want things to be, it's kind of like where we're coming is from this time in which we want people to tell us what to do, how to be, how to dress, where do I belong, what is my nation, what do we believe in this. But all of those concepts are being destroyed, and we have to find them from ourselves. So it's much more energy, it's much more discipline. There is a lot of more error and mistakes, so you have to be ready to forgive yourself and forgive others. But that's kind of like the responsibility of that type of growth.
So what you bring up now is really where I wanted to take this next, because, and you've already sort of been talking about that just by sharing about the practices and the way for living this way of life. But the point I want to sort of drive home is for that person, because this is a time, like you said, the breakdown happening naturally, right? We don't have to force it to happen. It's happening. This is just the time for this to happen. And you also spoke to the fact that when things are in chaos, there is unknown, and there's great benefit in understanding how to accept and welcome the unknown, and there's great strife when you don't. So to talk to, let's assume there's someone listening to the show who, prior to the shutdown, prior to everything that's happening right now, they were sort of on autopilot, right? They were going to work, they were waking up, they were rushing to get their kids to school. They were going to work. They were at work for 8 hours. They were at work for 8 hours. Then they ran back home. They made dinner. They watched some TV, went to sleep. And they were just on this loop of just like, got to do this thing, got to do this, got that thing. And so, and there wasn't a level, and even for the person who considers themselves someone who's health conscious or well conscious, they too were sort of in this kind of loop of like, okay, well, I just have these practices and I do these practices and that'll get me through this next moment in my life. And, similarly to the experience that you had, funny enough, those last 2 weeks of 2020 were very hellish for me as well. My mother was put in the hospital because of COVID. It was actually very close to a serious situation. She had 40% of her lungs were taken up by the COVID. My grandmother passed away last week. It was a very similar sort of like just intensity. And I say that to say, like, I don't think our experiences are unique in the collective consciousness of what everyone is experiencing right now. And I would like to understand how you would express to that person who is finding themselves like, hey, I was living life this way, and what I was expecting to happen tomorrow is not happening anymore, and my entire life is different, and I've lost people in my life, people who I was connected to, I'm no longer connected to. The establishments where I found my comfort are no longer around. Everyone who I thought was a beautiful and amazing human obviously had very dark sides to them that I didn't understand. This celebrity is caught, this company's caught, the government that I found trust in doesn't have my back. Everywhere you turn, right? Everywhere you turn. And if you didn't already have this awareness, if you didn't already know how to manage or have expectations for what is happening, And for someone who didn't have that, how would you talk to that person who's really struggling to stay awake and navigate this new way of living?
Mhm.
Where would they start?
Well, that's again, all in the principles that we are all different and that we accept, that each single reality, it has its delicate parts. So much more than a general advice or a general counsel, like I always again go back to the original principle, what I share with the two of you, of kind of like first things first, or first polarities first. The first polarity is the emotion. We as humans have developed amazing technologies. We can go to the moon, we can, travel, we have the phones, etc., etc., etc. But we haven't developed our emotional intelligence and our emotional system. We still sacrifice our own well-being in order not to deal with what we are feeling. And we're strong, we're resilient, we keep up, it's very masculine in that way. I don't cry. I'm just gonna keep going. But it's also the time and the merging of the feminine, of the flow, of the emotion. And I think that a very healthy thing to do this time is to be honest, at least with yourself, for what you are feeling. And so if at this moment you have gone through calamities, if at this moment you are mourning, if this moment you are grieving, you just have to be honest with yourself and stay there and give it a time. A lot of what we have been doing with the emotions, and even emotions that are because painful things like somebody departing out of our lives, or emotions just like I'm just angry with the government, whatever that is, what we cannot keep doing is just sweeping those emotions under the carpet for a later. So really strengthening and creating a container, a vessel that allow us to feel what we are feeling. And it's not just about, oh, I feel what I'm feeling, so I want it out. Because we have a lot of these in our understanding of like, we have like all these new moon cycles and plant new intentions and finally let go of what you need to let go. Yeah, there is a gift to that, but there is also just a gift of like, you don't have to let go everything out of your life, because that's where the gift is. Just staying there is where the gift is. There is no need right away of like, if I'm feeling sadness, I want it out because I just want happiness. It's just staying there. So I think the first thing that a lot of people could do is create a space to feel what they are feeling. And if they know that they have a hard time expressing what they are feeling, then to get in touch with that. And that can happen in many different ways. Support yourself with people that love you and can listen to you, but that could truly listen. Not the people who are like listening to you, but they're already thinking what they're going to tell you, or they're doing 3,000 things. Like you can feel hold. We need more of that wholeness. We need much more of that like presence and like, I'm here for you fully, not judgment, just here for you. So people can find that. People can also find ways to express them. That's why creativity is very flow and it's very feminine in that way. So dancing, singing about it, just using that energy so that it doesn't get stuck in the body. Motion too, movement, of course, it helps everybody to process things. Think that sometimes is that movement around sports create a different type of chemistry in the brain, so you are just competing, but still it works, just saying, depending on each people and each person. But again, that's just movement, probably movement within where you have like that conscious feeling. And then of course, support yourself. I would say that's why I like to work so much with herbs and supplements. It's just like when things are hard in life, even in the forest, when a tree is dying, when there is like not that much water, or when there is an infection, or when there are parasites, the forests support each other, and it sends nitrogen and it sends carbon. It's not just like, oh well, we just stay here until everybody dies. No, they're supporting themselves. They're like mixing things, they're like changing minerals. So there is a lot of support that people can find also through the plants and through like regular supplements, because we still also, biochemistry, we're still, under the laws of like minerals, potassium, magnesium, calcium, nitrogen. So all of that stuff, either through food or not. And then we need to support ourselves. So, like book either a consultation with an alternative wellness or herbology or coaching, or something that can also guide you and support you. And also, if you don't have anybody who can hear you, then get that that support of somebody that can listen to you in a way that you process those emotions. So I feel that's the most important, is in these times not to neglect what we are feeling. That can be a longer process depending on the level of emotional intelligence that we have. It can be as depth as the trauma is, because when there is trauma there is a lot of healing and a lot of beautiful things. To accept that is that nothing of what is happening right now to us or to any of the people who is listening this, nothing of what is happening is a casualty. Everything that is happening to us somehow comes again either with a gift or with an experience that we already accepted. The worst thing that we can feel is right now going into victimhood, because once we victimize ourselves, we're not only like burying ourselves deep into the hole, but we're definitely going to be missing a great opportunity. So there needs to be that acceptance of like, okay, hold on, this whole world just changed, this whole world is now in chaos. Ooh, it's a lot. I'm going to at least accept that it's happening, not go into denial, not going into numbing, because then we can numb with putting more work, we can numb with doing drugs, we can numb with alcohol, we can numb with extra exercise and overtraining ourselves, we can numb with pornography, we can numb with many different numbing things that exist there. And that's why a lot of these numbing effects or these numbing experiences are growing right now. It's just because we haven't developed that emotional system to be like, okay, I have to deal with emotions. It's sad, but it's not even part of our cultural practices. Nobody at school even told you about emotions, or at least where I grew up and how I grew up, I didn't like get skills about like if I'm throwing a tantrum, sometimes it would be like I would be shamed. Why are you doing that? Go to the corner until like, it's just like I never got to like, oh, I could breathe, or I could like at least I could at least express why I was feeling that way. So I think that we're going back to basics as in the human experiences. And one of those basics is like, deal with emotions and honor them. You know, also that a lot of people who have like lose people who have passed, it's we are not that used to grieving. It's not something that comes that natural, mostly in Western cultures. In other cultures, they have a lot of rituals to like farewell of like the loved beings and everything. So it's important to also bring attention to that. And for that, I suggest people to create rituals as simple as like lighting a candle, connecting to spirit in whatever word or whatever way they connect, or just connect to the candle itself, connect to the water, to the elements, whatever works. But just create a little intentional ritual in which you are processing what just happened to you, but with that, with the symbol, with the fact, so that your consciousness feel like, oh, we already did something, we already participate at least on this experience, instead of just like keep going. And then for the rest, for all of us who are right now, in this dance of unknowingness, or in this dance of like the places I like are not anymore there, that is another type of grief. It's not as hard, but yeah, it's grief. Like, a lot of people like, if you're a burner and you like to go to Burning Man like myself, like it didn't happen last year. I'm not gonna say that it ruined my life and I'm traumatized about that, but like, damn, I was sad, like it was like it's a ritual for myself. So, you know, it's of course not a big trauma, but it's a little bit of a grief. So at least what do? I don't know. I'm gonna play at one day good music and dance and feel like I'm still alive and I can still celebrate life. And that's it. That was my ritual. That's it. Gone. But do those type of things, because in that way we are also creating resilience, which is a gift of these times. Resilience. What does resilience means for you? And then that's what we are seeing. There is a lot of people drowning because there was never that resilience. Everything was always gifted and perfect for them. They were working, but they were not really working from their soul. And so that resilience comes from that, from the experience of like, wow, everything is gone. It's like what the song says, like falling is easy, but standing up is the most difficult part. That's the resilience. So a lot of these times are like making us be like, okay, push down and like use that will, that resilience that is connected to your spirit, is deeper than just like an ability to, face issues or resolve issues. It's just like connected to what you believe deeper about yourself, your soul, your evolution. So that's why I'm saying all of these times are somehow driving us to even deeper conversations as humans. And that's great. At least I think that that's better than just talking about other more vain things.
That was amazing, Miguel. everything you're sharing, I'm like, if you see me looking down, it's because I'm taking notes, by the way. So just, I kind of wanted to just like kind of rewind a bit on something you were talking about, and that was kind of, we were kind of gonna go this route anyway about the herbs and how these things can help you in nature and like being in the forest and like
Mhm.
being able to find these things. I know Jesse and I, before COVID, I sent him something about taking a class like this, and I believe upstate New York, to like, understand when you're on a nature walk, like what kind of herbs you can see, and what is, you would learn like in that training, like what herbs do what. And I know a lot of herbs have become very, I guess, famous. A lot of people are starting to put them in their smoothies, and they're having these as supplements, like ashwagandha, maca root. I can't think. I'm just trying to think of the ones that are in my cabinet, that I utilize. And I just, you're a registered herbalist, and I think this is the route. This is something that can probably help people. Like, hey, if this is something you're going through, maybe you can work through with this or work with this. Like, I don't even know what ashwagandha does, but it's in my cabinet, So I think it'd be great if you could just like kind of tell us a little bit about herbs. I know it's deep into the ancient wisdom. A lot of tribal societies use herbs for different things, disease, sickness, the list goes on and on and on. Yeah, so if you
Yeah.
want to just dig into that.
Well, the first thing that I want to say is like learning how to work with herbs is recovering part of your humanness. Because when we were humans before, and we were more tribal, and we were probably less urbanized, and we have a different lifestyle, we all have something that was called a botanical brain or botanical intelligence. Where does your botanical brain lives? On your belly. It was connected to your intuition. And so when you will go outside with your friends, out of the cave, go to hunt, you better bring that, you know, whatever you were hunting, that deer, back to the women because they're hungry and they have all the kids and there is no more food. We're hunter gatherers. You will walk and then you will be around the forest. And, there are all of these mythos of like, they will hear the voice of the forest and the forest will tell them, eat this grape, and they will take the grape. And it was something like that. They were feeling it through their gut. Oh no, I cannot eat this. Who was telling them, eat this berry or not eat this berry? How does in the Amazon plant they learn how to mix this plant with this other one to create this great medicine, knowing that there are thousands and millions of different species of plants. So the plants have a language, and that's a book. If people want to kind of start getting of that, is The Secret Language of Plants. And mm, we all have a way to communicate into plants beyond just the physical effect of what a plant does or the benefit that the plant or the herb or the adaptogen brings into our life. And so it's a way of just reconnecting to the earth itself because, plants absorb a lot of sunlight. That's how they process their food. They just absorb and create, do their respiration cycles, eliminate, change carbon dioxide into oxygen, but they also are to do the photosynthesis. And that in that absorption of light, they are absorbing light, and light has information, and light has life, and light has codes, and light has teachings. So just from all of that, that's why when then you ingest a lot of these plants, something recreates on your consciousness because it's also all that process in which the plant, the herb is connected, or the roots. And of course, we don't have to go that far to feel it's kind of sad, but it's the reality that we almost have to make, like propaganda to herbs, like saying herbs are good for you humans. Remember, herbs, they're just right there outside, like outside on your backyard. Because we became so dependent of pharmaceutics, but a lot of pharmaceutics, like if you go to the history of pharmaceutics and go really back into a lot of these synthetic products, a lot of them come from plants. Mostly all of them come from plants. And a lot of these plants that then create like a huge boom in the pharmaceutic medicine were coming from the Amazon and even from like more Western kind of like. And then the folk medicine in Europe, even before pharmaceutics, they used to just heal and live and thrive with herbal medicine. And so much more than saying that pharmaceutics are not good, because I'm a believer of bridging everything. And hey, there are certain things that a plant will not do. And like, once we are in this state in which, there is a pandemic going on, of course, probably the plant is not going to have the answer. If we could have probably not disturbed as many ecosystems as we have been disturbing and just being more natural, then probably in the first place we will not be having this pandemic going on. But because we live in such amount of urban centers, that's why we need vaccines too. It's just because the way that we are living has really affected a lot of these ecosystems and is bringing a non-natural balance. And that's why sometimes we need to do, let's say, non-natural things, which will be like, human genetic modified things. And it's just the time that we are living. And like, of course, there can be a returning back in that self. So what I'm trying to say in that way, it's just like there is a bridging and there is to need to be an understanding of why everything has its right place in its right moment. However, if you right now have the chance with your wallet, with your money, with your lifestyles of saying, what path do you choose? Are you choosing the path of wanting just to be medicated since age, I don't know, 30, or not much more than choosing? You're just preferring to go first from that alternative than before going to plants. Then you are supporting something that can change. Because again, I've seen people with depression, I've seen people with nervousness, I see people with inflammation in their body that they have healed just through diet and plants when they were already put on a medication. So they decide to drive their journey of healing into a much more alternative medicinal aspect. And so herbs help us in many different ways, not only to heal, to connect, to bring, for example, if you're using ashwagandha, which is a more Ayurvedic herb from India, it works with the roots and with the leaves, and it creates resilience in the body. It helps your body. So every time that you're taking ashwagandha, you're pretty much through your digestive system, telling to your digestive system, hey, you don't need to freak out whenever something comes in here. It's all good. We're supported. Let me work with the blood. I'm going to talk to the blood. The blood is going to talk to your nerves. The nerves is going to talk to your brain. And then whenever there is something stressful, like, oh my God, I have a show or I have a presentation, then not the whole system goes, alarm, alarm, something. Oh my God, we have a show. It's more like, oh, we got this. Yeah. It creates that supportive system from the digestive center, from the fire into all the peripheral side of your body. So that's why it's called an adaptogen, because it allows you to adapt better and to have better resilience towards stress, fatigue, and everything. So each plant has like different ways of working with you, but also the plants, again, in the more esoteric and the more energetic way, plants also have teachings, because of the way that they are designed. So plants, for example, like nettles, which have you ever walked like up here in the Northwood forest in the spring? So the nettles grow and they have these like silica kind of like spikes. And they're if you touch the nettle, you get an inflammation on your skin, quite subtle, but it's still like a little skin rash. It's not poison ivy. It's different than poison ivy. But so it's a plant that, on the outside, when you touch it, it kind of stings you. It's called stinking nettles. And it creates like a reaction of like, hey, alert, like that's kind of like the composition of the plant. And it's a very kind of like tall plant. It grows very fast, like it's little shots in the spring, and then like 2 weeks after it's like all up and tall. So nettles, for example, when then take it internally in a tea, are great for your liver, which your liver is what keeps you awake. Your liver is what is connected to your eyes. The liver is what purifies your blood. It creates the same kind of like example of the outside into the inside on a morphological level, but also on an energetic level. And that's why, again, plants we call like plant teachers, animal teachers. And that's kind of like that relationship of ancient wisdom, is that everything that exists in our relation, it's helping us to learn from each other. That's why they're called medicines, because they are also sharing their essence into our essence. And then it becomes a medicine when we heal what we were lacking. It's more like a trade, like a sharing.
That's freaking awesome. Yeah, it's funny we were talking about herbs because I recently have become really interested in smoking herbs.
Uh-huh.
And I'm sure you've heard of Flower Power here in New York City. And I remember, because I too am much into biohacking technology and nootropics and things like that. And the beautiful thing for the people who are listening is, the beautiful thing about these herbs is they are powerful and very inexpensive. You know, when you think about the idea of biohacking and the idea of a lot of the industry of biohacking and the supplements, the markups are crazy, the pricing is crazy, and a lot of what's in there, sometimes it can be like very, like some of those things can be extracted from plants, and like L-theanine or other sort of things that are sourced from the plant, which, yeah, you definitely can't just find an abundance of that in nature. But you don't have to do that in many ways. Like, you can go to a local herb shop if you have that, or you can order online and find a lot of beautiful herbs to find mixtures that work for what you're trying to achieve. So, like, for example, like when I went to Flower Power, I was like, yeah, I'm trying to, like, I want to put together a blend for like, uh, for focus. You know, I get scatterbrained and often he's like, all right, so I got your gotu kola right here, your ginkgo right here, your skull cap, this, that, your tulsi right here. And the thing is when I used to smoke weed, I really enjoyed the process of like rolling a joint and even the process of smoking. But it got to the point where like weed just made me paranoid all the time. And so I really think it was actually through breath work is why that happened, because it became a lot more sensitive and marijuana just became too intense for me to hold. Um, and so, but using these other herbs, like, you know, I rolled myself one, and it was a wonderful experience, and I did feel more focused and more creative and excited to write and do different things. So, and I think I paid like $20, you know, for a bunch of great organic goodies. So it's just one of those things that you're right. It's one of those low hanging fruit that actually offer a lot of benefits. So, you know, shout out to the herbs.
Yeah, well, what I love about, the earth is that it's part of the abundance of Mother Earth.
Mm,
It's
mm,
Mother Earth just creating for us. We don't have to take it into a lab. We don't have to take it into this and make it that. That's all fine. But it's also, there is something just like the simplicity, the benevolence, and like the prosperity and the abundance of Earth itself, that it can offer us something that can
yeah.
already help us just there. What I also like about, in that way is that, herbs are also neurotropics in a way, but the difference is with plants is that depending on how you are consuming the plant, you are creating certain type of alchemy. So
Mm,
of course, if you smoke a plant, you are inhaling the plant through the ethereal and through the air part.
mm,
Yeah. So that will affect much more your air element. So that's when you smoke certain plants, you have much more of a mental, psychologically, let's say, reaction. When you take herb in which you, for example, make a decoction, you put it in water and you let it cook and brew for a long time, you absorb all the soluble water nutrients and then you take that. So like your delivery mechanism of that plant is water. So it's going to travel through your whole digestive system. It's going to feed then your water element, your blood. It's going to moisture your lungs. It's going to moisture your mucus, etc., etc. Then you can also eat the plant on the full body. You can just chop the root if you just do burdock and you saute it, and then you get the earth part. And so then you get the fibers, you get all of those minerals, you get all of those nutrients, but then you get the most dense part, all of them. And there are even some alchemical remedies that we do in which we burn the plant, we put it on fire, and we make some ashes and we make some powders, and then we add those powders back into the remedy. Or you can also take those powders like some snuffs, like through the nose, yeah, like rapé or other type of things. And then you're getting also then that fire constitution with the sparks the spirit. So I mean, alchemical process have been there since long time ago, and that's how we also were able to extract different pharmaceutics. Like there is a lot of um, uh, the science of remedies comes with a lot of alchemy, how to transform something into something. But again, what I like about the plant is that then we can choose the adventure again depending of what we are needing, and that's why what you are saying, like through your breath work and your sensitivity, your nervous system was way much more present of all the different impulses. Cannabis or marijuana, what it does is that it takes a lot of the energy from the digestive system, from your acne, from your fire, and it opens you up. So it put it up to the periphery, and that's why you feel so creative and so, oh my God, romantic, and the sensitivity, and like, it's a flower too. So just imagine a feminine flower coming and open you up. But then when you keep doing that, you keep losing that center energy. That's why you become so ungrounded. So again, like everything, you can do it, but you can reverse it. What I say, you can activate fire, but then you can cool down water. So there is another plant that is called wood bethany that has many properties, but you take wood bethany and you drink it as a tincture or in water. And wood bethany has the reverse effect of marijuana. So it brings the energy from the outside back into the center of your digestion. And then you work with that with cycles, because that's just like, it's like you go to the gym, you do biceps, then the next day you are stretching your biceps. You're just working with the system, with tension and extension, contraction, expansion. And those are all the part that we start learning with this kind of like wellness way of treating ourselves. It's just that we are going to be learning about all the layers of where and how do we need to apply certain things in our life.
Beautifully said, man. And that was really cool. I never even thought about the delivery system and what impact that does from an elemental perspective. So you dropping some real nuggets today,
Chinese
Miguel.
medicine mostly is like a master on that. Those guys really know how to mix, like talking about creating like synergetic compounds, because we sometimes create unconscious synergetic compounds, which is like vitamin C, minerals, and then we take all our supplements together, we chuck them together, and yeah, they're not gonna counteract with each other. But there are certain plants that get enhanced with each other. Yeah, for example, aloe vera and lemon, turmeric and black pepper. There are certain plants and elements that once put it together, they potentialize itself.
Yeah, I was just listening to I know you're a fan of Paul Chek as well, and I was just listening to his podcast, and he had a guest on where he was basically talking about this product that was created where he combined it's called Feel Free, and he combined kava with kratom, and he said like that combination was added this like what those experiences are separately are nothing in comparison to those two being combined.
Yeah, no, exactly. There is a lot of that. And again, then the beautiful thing, at least for me as an herb, and as somebody who is offering herbs and remedies, is also to study, because there is a responsibility of what I'm going to put you on, what I'm going to suggest you to. Everybody has a chance. But again, plants are also very powerful. They can create from a subtle to a whole physical reaction, in your body, depending on what you need and your constitution, like any other remedy. And so it's really important also to have that understanding again, and then do things cyclical. Like I don't keep people in the same thing for like a year or everything, because then you create that tolerance, but you also create that unawareness, and so the plant stops talking to you and referring. So again, there is a lot of different ways, but yeah, that's how our elders used to heal, and like so far we're here. So they have been doing a good job. They left us a legacy, and in a way it's a legacy that I want to keep supporting, because I want to keep seeing the earth prosper. I want to see more gardens. I don't want to see just buildings. That's just my belief. That's who I am. But that's why I like then invest my energy, my time to study these type of things, so that they can stay alive for the future generations as well.
Oh, to that.
Oh, seriously. I had a quick question just for the folks who don't know. I know what kava is, but not the other one. But if we could explain both. I know you said it, Jessie. I just wanted to make sure folks are like, what's that? What's kava? What's kratom? So if you don't mind explaining that, Miguel.
Yeah, well, those
Which
are basically two roots. Kava, it's
oh,
just it's a Pacific um root, but it's spread in all different plates. It really works. It works a little bit like a depressant, similar probably to alcohol, in a way that it kind of like makes your nervous system feel a little bit more chill. So it's also used like to sedate people. So it, like when you're like too hype or like too nervous, then kind of like it brings your energy to a little bit more of a, oh, you feel chill, you feel relaxed. Same as alcohol, it might affect in high doses to your liver. And so yeah, it's a nervine, what we call implants, which is like like something that like sedates you or works on your nervous system. And then kratom, in a way or another one, has been super used for opioid addiction. It's just another plant that when you ingest it and take it either as a powder or any other forms, um, lightens the anxiety of craves, of like craving, or like when people are going through detox process of that kind of like, what they call the cold turkeys effects. And it also thermoregulates the temperature on your body. And so I don't really know that much about the combination of the two of them. I'll have to hear the podcast just to say on that synergetics. What I do believe, again, is just like you're working on your nervous system, and then you're kind of like contracting, or like, I think for me, creating what it works is a lot on the tone of your vagus nerve. So it kind of like makes you like squeeze that sensation that is a lot of what happened with some psychedelics. Your vagus nerve is just like really active. And so you feel all of like, it's like an extra awareness of theme. Yeah. And stimulates that central part of you. So I don't know how they will work together. And again, I always even like to say this with plants, not because they're plants means that they are for everybody, just because you're not going to get the best benefit. it's
Yeah.
it's just that, like, if you have a sensitive digestive system, you don't want to be eating things full of fiber, because you're just going to be in the bathroom all day long, unless that you're really wanting to be in the bathroom all day long, then go for it. But if not, just using them accordingly to that.
Yeah, love it. Well, as we start to wind down this episode, I think one more place we can definitely touch, and I'd love to hear, is where in Miguel's life is the place where you're searching for insight or looking to understand, or noticing and observing within yourself opportunities to expand your understanding, expand your awareness. What are some things that you're working on right now within your own life?
Well, I have a big jump that I'm doing, something like the classic thing when you talk about doing something and you have not done it for years, and then you're like, okay, finally, this is the year I'm going to do. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm enrolling in a Master of Oriental Medicine, then just to have a license, for treating, diagnosing, and, having, I have teach myself many things through, podcasts and YouTube. I graduate from YouTube in a lot of different courses. Uh,
Amen.
yeah, I just love to study by myself. And that's why I thought like, oh, I just don't need to go to school for that. But right now, I just, for the place in which I am and in my lifestyle, so I'm going to go back to school and just observe a lot of theory about anatomy, physiognomy, diagnosis, and then also then having the license to, able to practice in that way. I'm
Mm.
also like to watch the stars, just for my spiritual growth. So I like to go, at least in the winter, I cannot go outside and watch the stars because it's too cold. I'm still Colombian in my design. So, but I go sometimes, but I like to go to places in which I can see the stars and then just kind of like contemplate it. And then I contemplate that a little bit with, the astrology wisdom, because as above, so below. So I get to untangle some puzzles, just like thinking and observing my astrology chart and just observing things. And
Mm.
so that's kind of like my contemplation, more like expansive mind practice.
Mm.
Um, and then there is something I just started doing that is something that I was looking for, that is kind of like a self-defense art. So I'm doing
Mm.
now Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which
Yes,
is awesome.
sir. Yes.
Rolling there, and it's just another way also of using other capacities of the human body, and at the same time interacting with different people, getting to be. And so that's kind of like where I'm finding also a different type of knowledge about opportunity, because I think that in jiu-jitsu there is a lot of moments in which you feel you're not going to be able to get out of there, but then you
Mm.
find a way of getting out of there, and like reassuming a different position. And so
Mm.
I think that I always thinking like, what is doing in my brain, what is doing in my body is also doing it in my brain. And so I like that way of getting out of an entanglement in a
Mm.
very harmonious way. And I like that you're on the earth rolling on the floor. It's not like a standing position, so it allows me to be connected down to the roots. So those are kind of like the three big changes. And then things that I'm just working, like a lot of you, and as you were saying that, Jessie, I'm just really working on staying in the polarity of stability, because I tend to get, again, very excited for many things. And then like I talk to people like you guys and I get super inspired about doing something. And then I have 3,000 projects and et cetera, et cetera. So I'm trying to minimize, I'm starting to use that metal element that I took right now for my age. I need to start cutting certain type of things, understanding that I cannot do everything, that I cannot say yes to every opportunity or every chance, and just start becoming a little bit more careful just in the way that I'm using my energy and my time in that regard. So that's something that is where I'm working now. I still really want to do everything, but like I'm talking to that inner child, like this is not the time in which we can just like keep playing that. We also have to do our thing. So that's my process.
I can resonate with that a lot. What are some of your favorite books that you could share with the people?
Well, I have many. Well, mostly right now, I'm just like, devouring, of course, some clinical acupuncture time. So that's just if you're really into that. But, well, that one that I was sharing about the sacred language of plants, I really like that one. Biohacking for sure. Like Boundless by Ben Greenfield. I think that he has a lot of great stuff in that regards, mostly neurotropics and all of that. A good book that is popping back again, it's Joe Dispenza, just like Supernatural. It's just think that it has that like good blend in between like neurogenesis science, but also just spirituality. I also have, the University of Jiu-Jitsu, which is awesome. I don't, it's not that I'm like thinking I'm going to learn Jiu-Jitsu out of a book, but it really helps like going through all the different stages. It's kind of like divided by all the different belts. And so you can go like, like what is the objective of a white belt, a blue belt, and then it has drills and exercises that you can do on yourself. Yeah, and I think that, I mean, I do have many other ones. I have another one from a teacher of Kundalini yoga. Her name is Guru Ratana. She's a great writer, and she has one book that is called The Art of Inner Love and The Power of Neutral. It's more all based like on Kundalini yoga techniques, but the way that she writes, it's a lot of these experiences that sometimes we have in meditation, and it's like, oh my God, and then I feel this and that. It's kind of like she put it in words that are easy for you to relate to the concept, and then it's easy for you to go back or understand what is happening. So those are some among many, just keep. I'm curious about Dave Osprey's new book about on fasting, just because he has been so invested on that and he's doing so much advertising. So we'll see how that one goes. But yeah. There is a lot of all those things, that I just keep looking, researching, and being fascinated by.
Beautiful, man. Well, before we round out this episode, is there anything else you would want the people to hear, know, understand? Any closing thoughts for all the listeners to take away and walk away with?
No, I just want to give that energy of enthusiasm. I know that we can't see all of what is happening, like, not the most fun party, but believe me, on all of that, there is a lot of great gifts. And so I go back always to like a lot of these times of, challenges, shadows coming up, difficult circumstances. There are great gifts. And once then we use those gifts, then, we're going to be vibrating in like the keys of harmony and the keys of higher expression where we can be. So we are in processes, and it's good to accept the processes that are happening, accepted. Really want to go back to that place of just being honest and humble. There is so much about this thing of like, stay strong, don't look, keep up, go. And like, there is also really good medicine and energy of just like being vulnerable and accepting what is happening. And, you know, somebody told me, an native elder told me, in a sweat lodge, he told me, it's beautiful when you really touch the mud, because down then you get to see where beauty is created, because it's in the mud, it's in the minerals of the mud that then flowers grow. And so, it's like a really good metaphor. Sometimes we're like so afraid of the mud because of the dirt, because of the temperature, because of the messiness. But once you're really not like touching the mud, once you're like on it, once you like, hit that point, then you're able to also, contemplate and enjoy where beauty is created.
Aho again. Thank you so much for sharing that, Miguel. And this whole podcast, I mean, I took up a lot of notes. I'm sure. I mean, we share it in the intro, and that's why I do that. I really appreciate you coming on and really delivering the wisdom and talking about not only ancient wisdom, but the herbs and breath work and meditation, and just talking about where we're at in the world and looking at a different way in comparison to what we're seeing all over the news and the media, and like how the world's on fire and we're all going to pretty much die from this COVID thing. At least that's how they make it seem. I think your words and the beauty you put into those words will really affect the people who are listening to this podcast. So really enjoy everything you said, and thank you. And obviously we cannot close out without saying, where can the people find you, what you're working on right now, so that if they're interested in continuing following Miguel Mendez, they can find you and support you in any way.
Right, awesome. So mostly right now I'm doing something that is super fun and super free, which is I'm going every day on Instagram. I'm doing 20 minutes of bendito breath. Bendito breath is kind of like the way of like me like putting together all the breathing techniques, and it's just fun, and we're just exploring the mind. So last week we did an exploration on the mind. We did like the anxious mind, the neutral mind, the positive mind, and it's just an experience there with good music, kind of like fast, straight to the point, and then people can connect them, and then they can see them on IGTV if you are like in a different time. So that's something that I'm doing every day at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or then just on repeat on IGT life. And then taking different, starting to do consultations back again with people for herbs. Just people send me, I ask them to send me weird pictures of their tongue and their hands, and so like to do an oriental diagnosis. And then I work one-on-one with people, and that can be through a website that is coming right now. You can find me right now on Instagram if you want to write me, but my website's going to be up very soon with all the different type of consultations. So Instagram is S Miguel Mendez, which is ES, like in Spanish, S, which means it's S Miguel Mendez, ES Miguel Mendez with Z. And then the webpage will be miguelmendez.org, which there are going to be a lot of different food. And if you also enjoy recipes and food, I have one new Instagram page that is called Food is Medicina, in which I'm just posting all the different food and recipes, and soon herbs to come. So yeah, there is a lot of things, as I was sharing at the beginning of this podcast. I'm just kind of like coming out of the mud. I'm feeling bad, I'm feeling powerless, and then I'm coming now back again with my power and my energy and dedication to do things. So yeah, that's where people can connect.
Yes, and that will all be in the show notes below so that people can easily click and find you. Again, thank you so much for jumping on with us, Miguel. It's been such a pleasure.
Well, thank you both of you. I wish all the best for all of this good information that is going to flow not only through this chapter but all other chapters. Yeah, just to get to good people and like really have that mission of sharing good stuff.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Miguel. Thanks for everybody who's listening. And as always, if you enjoy this episode, give us some stars, share with a friend, leave us a review. And if you hated it, well, that'll be our little secret. Thanks so much. Peace.
Peace.